Under Wisconsin law, a law enforcement officer has a legal privilege to use deadly force to protect others when the officer reasonably believes there is an actual or imminent unlawful interference directed at the other person, and reasonably believes that such force is necessary to prevent the imminent death or great bodily harm to the other person. In reviewing Deputy Clawhatch's actions, he witnesses Mr. Whitmire running towards Deputy Salentine. Mr. Whitmire has a knife raised as he is running. Mr. Whitmire is closing the gap and fast. Deputy Clawhatch shoots and strikes Mr. Whitmire in close proximity to Deputy Salentine. Mr. Whitmire falls at the feet of Deputy Salentine. With the deadly weapons raised and the close proximity, Mr. Whitmire posed an immediate and substantial risk of death or great bodily harm to Deputy Salentine. Without the intervention of Deputy Clawhatch, I firmly believe that Deputy Salentine would have suffered great bodily harm or even death from the imminent knife attack. Mr. Whitmire's death is tragic. My condolences go out to the family. However, I believe Deputy Clawhatch's actions were justified in this case. I will not be filing criminal charges in this matter. As an aside, I have talked with the victims in this matter. I've also talked with Mr. Whitmire's family, and they want me to tell you that this was completely out of character for Mr. Whitmire. He was a decorated Marine. They are in pain. They lost a son. Please respect their privacy. The investigation was done by DCI, and I believe the information will be available on their website shortly after this press conference. That's all I have. Thank you. I'll take a few questions if they're factually related. I don't want to get into hypotheticals or anything of that nature, speculation. Yes, ma'am?
Was Whitmire asked to drop the weapon by authorities?
Officers were talking with him. They were telling him to come talk with us and giving directions to other people.
When was the 911 call made in this whole?
Warren, I didn't write that down, but off the top of my head today, I believe, because we actually looked it up, it was at 7:40.
Yeah. I guess at what point in the timeline?
Oh, well, in my scenario, that was, well, when the homeowner one sees the commotion outside, sees the striking, the phone calls are going to be within that range there. So when the first homeowner sees what's going on.
Okay, so there's more than one call then?
Yes.
Family says uncharacteristic for him to be like this. So you guys can perform any toxicology tests?
Yes, toxicology tests are pending. Toxicology tests are taking a while, so we're still waiting on those tests at this time.
What's the status of the officers? Are they all back?
I'll let the sheriff speak to that.
Thank you all for coming in, and thank you also, as the district attorney had noted, to DCI, Department of Criminal Investigations, for their thorough investigation and their assistance in this matter. But specific to your question, as part of the process, officers are automatically put on administrative leave. That is not to implicate, that is not to cast suspicion, that is just part of the process. So now, hearing the rendering of the district attorney's decision, we will then start the process of bringing those officers back onto scheduled shift.
When do you expect them to be back?
Again, this is the decision. We're hearing it just like you're hearing it. So now we'll go back. We'll look at how those shifts have been covered and how quickly we can reintegrate them into the various shifts.
How about the woman hit in the head twice with a hammer? How seriously was she injured?
She received medical treatment. She was taken to the hospital.
Was she hospitalized for a while? Was it treated and released?
I don't have that right now.
You say acquaintance, was it just a friend?
A female acquaintance.
What's typically the proper training, Sheriff, for when someone's, attacking an officer with a knife?
You know, and we couldn't, and gets into, you know, what our policies are as far as the protocols, and we talk about things such as a force continuum, but this is something that I want to be able to really, you know, disseminate and explain in a much more thorough basis. And I guess what I would ask, from my perspective, again, I have not seen the information that you're about to see. You will probably be reading it prior to me reading it. And that's done for a reason. I hope you can all appreciate and respect the fact that we've been really on the outside of this investigation. So without getting into a lot of the details, I would ask that you go back, review the information, and if you have these kind of follow-up questions and subsequent questions, I'd be very willing to sit down and discuss those and be able to give a more thorough background into really what we do, because there is going to be a certain amount of education that comes with this. There's always questions, and whether it's our policies, our practices, or state law that we have to go by. It's not something that can necessarily be paced out here at a press conference. So I'm willing to and looking forward to that conversation.
I just want to interrupt. Just what the sheriff's talking about is that I received the case file from DCI approximately 10 days ago. They gave that to me. They did not give a copy to the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department did not receive a copy of it. Obviously, now that I've made a charging decisions, they'll be allowed to see that now going forward, just as everybody else will. So the sheriff is kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit in the sense that he is not prepared to answer a lot of questions about what happened, because the sheriff is just like you. He hasn't been a part of this for obvious reasons. That he's not part of the investigation. That's the Department of Criminal Investigations' job to investigate. The Sheriff's Department was out of that. So I just want to clarify that point.
Sheriff Joski, why did you go to the DCI to investigate rather than, a sister sheriff's office?
And this is actually was part of legislation recently. And so we choose Department of Criminal Investigations. They have very in-depth experience into it. And it's that agency that's really designated statewide. They go to any given municipality jurisdiction when they have these. They really are the professionals. They're the ones that have that kind of expertise. So that's just a call that we made, and again, we're very grateful to them. I have absolute respect and confidence in the investigation. Again, I haven't read it yet. I'm looking forward to it, to be able to again answer the questions you folks may have as part of this entire incident.
How many years were the officers on the force, respectively?
It varies. All of them with significant amount. You had, range from the top. You had Sergeant Schmiedel, who's got 20 years plus, and then you come down to Deputy Klahach, who's got over a decade, and then you go down to Deputy Salentine, who's been with the force for about 5 to 6 years. So experienced deputies, not only on the road, but again, when we hire, they've had experience in the correctional side of things and the communication side of things. Very thoroughly trained, and I have all the confidence in their actions as well. And so again, I would ask that you go back, as the District Attorney stated, this information is going to be available to you. So please go back, take the time to thoroughly review it, and at that time, if you have any questions, I'm open to arranging for meetings and interviews with anybody who wishes. So thank you.